Okay, we need a motion to leave the regular meeting and enter a public hearing.
So moved.
I have a motion to adjourn the regular meeting, go into public hearing, second by Marshall.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're in public hearing.
All right, everyone, welcome to the first night of a two-night public hearing. This is in regards to a data center zoning text amendment proposal. At this time, I would like to offer into the record evidence that this public hearing was noticed to the public. Here is a printout of the digital tear sheet used to generate the advertisement in the Ledger Independent. All members of the public will be given the opportunity to speak on this matter. Individuals who wish to speak, you'll come up to this microphone right here behind the TV, and you'll give your names and addresses, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Before individuals, we will have groups who will be given 20 minutes to speak. I think we have 11 groups that have signed up. They will speak from the podium, and some of them will have presentations. Now, anyone who has signed up to speak and who wishes to speak, please raise your hands so I can see. Okay, so those people who have signed up to speak and who want to speak, please stand up and raise your right hand. And also, if you submit, just to cover our bases, if you have submitted anything in writing pursuant to our rules, please also stand up and raise your right hand. Okay. Do you swear or otherwise affirm to tell the truth? Please say I do.
I do.
Excellent. Before individuals speak, again, please state your names and addresses when you come up here. You will be asked 2 questions by Chairman Reed. Those questions are, have you been sworn in? Because we want to make sure that you've been sworn in and that we can consider your testimony. And whether or not you are a resident of Mason County. Okay. I think there's any... We'll be given 20 minutes to speak. I think we have 11 groups that have signed up. They will speak from the podium, and some of them will have presentations. Now, anyone who has signed up to speak and who wishes to speak, please raise your hands so I can see. Okay, so those people who have signed up to speak and who want to speak, please stand up and raise your right hand. And also, if you submit, just to cover our bases, if you have submitted anything in writing pursuant to our rules, please also stand up and raise your right hand. Okay. Do you swear or otherwise affirm to tell the truth? Please say I do.
I do.
Excellent. Before individuals speak, again, please state your names and addresses when you come up here. You will be asked 2 questions by Chairman Reed. Those questions are, have you been sworn in? Because we want to make sure that you've been sworn in and that we can consider your testimony. And whether or not you are a resident of Mason County. Okay. I don't think there's anything else. After the groups have presented, if you all want to, the Planning Commission, we're going to retract this screen and maybe move the tables. And I don't know if we're going to be able to move the TV because all of the cables are kind of mixed in together. We could move the microphone back a little bit or something so you can see them or they can see you. But otherwise, if you want, we'll move the table so that it's more of a line and then you guys can face the audience. And that's totally up to you guys. I think that's all I have to say. Otherwise, Chairman Reed, proceed.
Okay. First up is Tanner Nichols. You've been sworn in, and you're not a Mason County.
I'm not a Mason County resident. I've been sworn in.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Mr. Chairman, thank you for your time tonight. My name is Tanner Nichols from Prosper on Todd in Lizard, Kentucky. I'm here on behalf of my client, who's a prospective developer of data centers here in Mason County. I want to spend a few minutes talking tonight about what we're going to discuss. How did we get here? Responses that the community's raised, concerns that they've raised, and the actual text amendment language. Tonight on the way in, I heard someone speak about, I don't know exactly what the process is. Well, tonight, we're here for the text amendment. So we're trying to put the rules in place. The Planning Commission's trying to put the rules in place. If we pass the text amendment, a developer, any developer, would have to come back and also go get the plan approved and get a zoning change. So this is just the first step of that process. Probably the planning commissioners know that, but some in the audience may not know that. So for about the past year, my client, the applicant, has been working closely with Maysville, Mason County Industrial Development Authority. They've been working with East Kentucky Power Cooperative, the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development, and others on identifying the right site and community to develop a world-class technology campus. The company is a US-based Fortune 50 technology firm that develops and operates its own data centers worldwide to support its products and services. Because this is part of a global site selection process, we're unable to disclose the company's name at this stage. However, I can assure you it is a well-established organization with a strong track record responsible for community-minded development. The company supports the county and this planning commission's current effort to establish clear and consistent standards for data center development. This process that we're going through here tonight will help ensure that any future projects in Mason County adhere to the standards that you all create and align with the community's expectations. Now, we believe that this process is designed to put guardrails and to guide development, but not to stop development. We previously provided comments to the text amendment language for this deliberation tonight, and we believe that our comments more closely match the development standards currently in place across the United States. In addition, some of the language and requirements are duplicative, and review should be handled through the appropriate state and federal permitting process. If the county and this commission ultimately adopts reasonable design standards and data centers become a permitted use in Mason County, any future projects we propose would fully comply with all local zoning codes, including setbacks, noise limitations, and design standards established through this process by the JPC tonight. Finally, as I've been up here for my third time in the last month and talking with the people from the community, we know that there are concerns, and we've heard those concerns from the community. We can say that this company is not a solar or wind developer and has no plans to pursue large-scale renewable energy projects. All on-site, off-site infrastructure improvements, including roads, water, sewer, fiber, electrical, any of that infrastructure would be paid for by the company, not the local taxpayers. One of the later presentations you will hear from EKPC tonight. I want to assure you that this company is committed to helping make sure that there are no increases to electricity or water rates as a result of this project. We've heard concerns about water. This project is currently being designed to be a highly water efficient cooling system using dry cooling technology, which relies on a closed loop system with mechanical chillers and fans and therefore requires very little water. Environmental compliance is paramount to this company. The project would have to meet or exceed all applicable federal, state, and local regulations. Finally, we understand the concern about noise. We will ensure compliance with all the standards established here tonight by the JPC and work to avoid any adverse impact on neighboring properties. The company will strictly adhere to the local noise laws that we put in place tonight and is committed to being a good neighbor, just like they are in every other community where they operate. Thank you for your time tonight and your thoughtful consideration for this proposed text amendment language.
Jeff Knowles up next. Jeff, are you sworn in?
Yes, sir, I was sworn in. I am not a Mason County resident, no, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jeff Knoll, and I am Secretary of the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development. We work with a lot of projects, and let me come back to the original question, am I a Mason County resident? And I am not. But I am going to say that I've spent a lot of time here in Mason County. In fact, when I first graduated from college, I spent a great deal of time here in this community and have a lot of friends. I only say that because the voices, the concerns, the people of this community matter to me. And while my job is to help grow jobs and bring jobs and to work on the kinds of companies that can help move our state forward, I believe very strongly that it is the people and the communities that have to come together to work together to decide for themselves what's best for their future, for their children's future and their grandchildren's future. And so I'm here tonight for one very specific reason. Our name has been mentioned. We have been involved in the project, and I feel an obligation to be transparent with you, to share with you our position on this project, and to share with you, I think, what our position would be in any movement going forward on the project. From the very beginning, when data centers started moving around, the governor and our cabinet actually put together a list of criteria. And that's really what I want to establish here tonight so there's no misunderstanding. On any project for any data center, we've laid out quite a few guidelines. And to the company's credit, to those associated with the company's credit, we've had quite a few what I call straight talk conversations about what those criteria need to be, why they have been established, and how we address them and work through them. But first, and I'm going to reiterate what was said earlier, families can't see their power bills go up as a result of this project. That's, without a doubt, the number one criteria that we feel has to be on the table going forward. I think every company must agree to pay their fair share of taxes, without a doubt. And sometimes when you get into the maze of legislation and tax programs and things of that nature, it's real important that the Cabinet for Economic Development, working with the community and the community leaders, work together to make sure that there is full transparency and there is that understanding that this company must pay its fair share of taxes. And I believe, above all, a company must be a good corporate citizen. And they have to show that right up front. I also think that while I've had a lot of companies and I've worked for a lot of companies, I have to come and give credit to this company by saying it's not a developer. We've had a lot of developers flowing through Kentucky about these kinds of projects. This is a company in which the people of the company have stood in front of us and made their statements and provided their information, and they have divulged their plans of how they intend to be a good corporate citizen. So families, you can't see an increase in your power bills. There has to be a fair payment of taxes across the board by this company, and done in a way that makes sense, and also for the near term, but the long term. And it has to be a company that's truly a good corporate citizen. Because in the end, what makes great communities are great people, and Mason County has those. Great leadership, and Mason County has those. Beautiful assets, Mason County has that. But you also need great companies as a part of your community to help us have the kind of future that we all desire. And so I'm not here advocating for the project. I'm here to reiterate the process. I give this community, the people on this podium, the elected officials credit for the way in which they have handled this, the commitment to transparency. And I would come back and say we've got criteria that we think have to be met for a project to move forward, but yet I have to give credit where credit is due. The utility company, the company itself, have moved forward in, I think, a very forthright, good way. And there is an opportunity to plant a flag in Mason County for a very well-respected company engaging in a very critical service to grow an industry that says this is a community that loves its agriculture. This is a community that has a wonderful manufacturing background. This is a community that is service and has great services to each other. And just as importantly, this flag can say, this is a community that knows how to grow high-tech growth industries that can provide great benefits to a community. But you all have to make that decision, and I can only come and share with you the criteria in which we are abiding by the work that we go forward. And all I can do is say thank you for letting me be here, but say thank you to everybody in this room who took it upon yourselves to have a responsible interest in the welfare of your community. And any question you ask is a fair question, and I certainly understand that, and I just respect all the people who are here. Thank you very much.
I'm not a current resident of Mason. Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm going to address the electric utility portion of it. I think there's been a lot of comments about the potential impact on rates. Hopefully my comments will help to address that concern. East Kentucky Power Cooperative has been a proud part of Mason County for over 50 years now. Spurlock Station there on the Ohio River is EKPC's flagship power plant. Today, the plant employs over 250 people, along with hundreds of on-site contractors. Spurlock Station plays a central role in EKPC's past, present, and future. While utility companies across the country have been closing power plants like Spurlock, EKPC has chosen a different path. EKPC is investing in Spurlock Station's long-term future to maintain this reliable, competitive power plant. On the two original units, EKPC has invested in scrubbers, precipitators, and other environmental controls to maintain compliance and to ensure a long life for the power plant. Since 2005, EKPC has commissioned 2 new units at Spurlock Station, and those units feature innovative technology to slash emissions while maintaining high efficiency. In the last few years, EKPC has cleaned and closed the CCR ponds at the plant and relocated the materials to a lined-capped landfill away from the Ohio River. With these significant investments, I'm pleased to say Spurlock Station is one of the cleanest power plants in the nation. And EKPC continues to invest in Spurlock Station's future. We are investing in technology to co-fire all 4 units at Spurlock Station with natural gas. And this will ensure that Spurlock Station will reduce carbon dioxide emissions and continue operating when strict EPA regulations go into effect in 2030. Over the years, each of these investment decisions has come down to one goal: doing what is best for our 16 owner-member cooperatives and the 1.1 million people that those cooperatives serve in 89 counties around the country. And that includes thousands of businesses. The question always before our co-ops is, how can we provide the most reliable electricity at the lowest cost possible price to all of our co-op members? EKPC and our 16 owner member co-ops are not-for-profit organizations. Electric co-ops are based in the communities we serve, and we have a long history of supporting and promoting economic development in those communities. Jobs and investment are essential to maintaining the vitality of the communities we serve and providing opportunities for the future in those communities. Tax base supports schools, roads, emergency services, and other basic services. Large users of electricity help to stabilize electric rates for everyone, especially in the rural areas that we serve. A core principle for all electric cooperatives is we treat everybody fairly, or we try to. We serve households along with businesses, big and small. We serve farming operations. We serve large industries that use large amounts of electricity. That is why we maintain separate rate classes for residential, commercial, and industrial members. And within each rate class, or some of those classes, there are subclasses. Each class or subclass uses electricity a little bit differently. As a result, their rate structure is designed so that the electric co-op can recover all of the cost of serving those members in that class. If one member or a group of members is not paying their fair share, that means that somebody else somewhere is paying more. We work hard to prevent that kind of cost shifting. Now, as an aside, sometimes I refer to electric tariff. That's a rate schedule. This doesn't have anything to do with international imports or China or anything like that. A tariff is a rate schedule. And it's important to note that electric utilities in Kentucky have regulated territories. We have a legal obligation to serve anybody that is located in those territories. If someone decides to build a home, a business, a school, a factory, or a data center, anywhere in those territories, our co-ops are obligated to serve. Under federal law, EKPC is required to serve any customer that wishes to take service on the grid. And because we're obligated to serve both on a state and federal level, EKPC believes we should be prepared and proactive in our discussions with prospective large users of electricity, including data centers. And we have been proactive. In the past few weeks, the Kentucky Public Service Commission has approved a data center rate schedule specifically for data centers. This gives EKPC and our owner member cooperatives a strong tool to serve the needs of data centers while protecting our other co-op members. This data center rate schedule is designed to ensure data centers pay their fair share. They pay the full cost of electricity that they use and the full cost of any infrastructure that is built to serve them. This means other co-op members will not pay for power plants or power lines needed to serve data centers. The data center rate schedule is designed to identify costs and risks that are caused by data centers and to keep those costs and risks with the data centers, not with our other members. This is fundamental to rate design. So if serving a new data center means EKPC must build a new generating unit at a power plant, or enter into a new power purchase agreement with another power plant owner to serve that data center, then the data center bears all of that cost. If EKPC must build a new transmission line or a new substation to serve the data center bears that cost. EKPC developed this rate schedule after studying the experiences of other communities around the country. We've carefully considered how best to serve the growing need while insulating our other co-op members from the costs and risks. And we believe the data center rate schedule is best in class for protecting our other members and for unleashing the opportunities that are available to communities, such as jobs, tax base, and investment. We recognize that not all data centers are the same. In fact, their power needs and power usage patterns can vary pretty widely. Some may use 20 megawatts of electricity very steadily. Others may use many times that amount of electricity, but their usage may vary pretty widely from minute to minute or hour to hour. Some data centers may have the ability to adjust their power usage as consumption on the electric grid goes up and down. Other facilities may want to have, other data centers may want to have facilities in place so that regardless of what happens on the grid, they have a certain amount of power all the time. Clearly, one size does not fit all. As a result, the data center rate schedule establishes guidelines to govern the development of a special contract between EKPC, the local distribution cooperative, and the data center customer. The rate schedule recognizes that the terms and conditions of that special contract can and should be tailored to the specific circumstances of the data center. Importantly, each special contract must be reviewed and approved by the Kentucky Public Service Commission. And in other words, that means that every data center special contract that EKPC enters into must be determined by the PSC to be fair, just, and reasonable for everyone. At this time, EKPC has not filed a proposed special contract with the PSC for any prospective data center projects. Under the new rate, a facility qualifies as a data center if it uses at least 15 megawatts of electricity and has a load factor of 60% or higher. And basically what that means is that it uses a large amount of electricity pretty steadily. This is likely to require new infrastructure, like substations, high voltage transmission lines, even additional power plant capacity. Depending on the circumstances, that could cost millions of dollars, could cost hundreds of millions of dollars, depending on the circumstances. Those costs will be borne by the data center under this rate schedule. The new data center rate schedule recognizes that very large users of electricity can drive enormous daily costs. Costs for power plant fuel, costs for transmission access, and other variable costs. As a result, to protect our other members, data centers will be required to prepay several months of those variable costs into a holding account that EKPC and the local co-op can draw from as we incur expenses. Collateral requirements will provide further protections against costs that could be left stranded if a data center unexpectedly closes before the end of its contract. Data centers needing more than 250 megawatts of power plant capacity must have a dedicated resource. That means they cannot simply buy the power that they need from whatever generation sources are available at that moment off the market. They must have a firm contract for electricity, for capacity, from one or more power plants. This is important For years, EKPC has been very vocal about federal policies that are driving reliable power plants out of business. And other states that have policies that likewise are driving the power plants in those states out of business. Some of those other states have advanced policies to shut down their reliable, dispatchable power plants and depend heavily on markets and on intermittent resources. Meanwhile, some states have forced the breakup of their vertically integrated electric industries. As a result, the electric retailers in those states don't have the protection of owned assets. They're forced to rely on markets to provide the power plant capacity that they need. They're hoping that somebody, almost certainly in another state that owns a power plant, will be able to provide the capacity that they need. Now, the states that close their power plants are the ones that are screaming the loudest about high electricity bills. Kentucky has taken a much wiser, much sounder approach. Kentucky's policymakers support grid reliability. As a result, EKPC has invested in keeping reliable power plants open here in Maysville and in other places. We've kept those operating to serve the needs of Kentucky's homes and businesses. As the demand for electricity grows, EKPC has added reliable power plants and capacity to serve that growing need. This protects cooperative members from volatile market prices because we own the assets. EKPC's data center rate schedule is rooted in the idea that large loads must have firm generation, and they must pay for those resources. They cannot simply lean on markets. In the past several years, EKPC has received dozens of inquiries from prospective data center developers. Most of those have come and gone. But EKPC has had ongoing discussions with the company that is interested in locating a data center right here in the Maysville area. We've explored various ideas, possibilities, configurations, with a wide range of potential power needs and resources to meet those needs. Those discussions continue. Due to contractual agreements, EKPC cannot disclose details. This is routine with most prospective economic development projects, including projects that are much, much smaller than this one. But EKPC's senior management has met with senior management of the company. We can confirm it is a Fortune 100 organization that is a well-known brand name. The company has stated their intention to build, own, and operate the data center facility throughout its lifespan. We believe this is a strong positive for this community and for our cooperatives. EKPC is confident this project offers a unique opportunity for jobs, investment, and tax base for the Maysville community and for the state of Kentucky. EKPC supports this project. Close proximity to Spurlock Station and existing transmission infrastructure will help to minimize the impact of additional electric infrastructure. In addition, EKPC believes serving this load will help to stabilize rates for all co-op members. The data center rate schedule will insulate cooperative members from data center costs, and data centers, like all members, will contribute to the bottom lines of our not-for-profit cooperatives. Due to their large relative size, data centers will make a large contribution to that bottom line, helping to maintain stable rates for all co-op members. In terms of the text amendment before the Commission, EKPC has reviewed that document, as well as proposed changes submitted by the company. EKPC supports those changes with the understanding that our cooperative will have the power and the infrastructure in place when needed. When EKPC is planning a significant power plant or power line project, we routinely engage the public by providing detailed information about what we're planning and how we expect it will impact the community. We will conduct public meetings to provide information and answer questions when there is a project to discuss. Further, we are subject to regulation by the Kentucky Public Service Commission, which requires review and approval of qualifying generation and transmission projects. This provides further opportunities for the public to participate in the future. This is an opportunity for this community. It's an opportunity for this community, this region, and this state. And EKPC looks forward to working with Maysville and Mason County as we continue to focus on providing affordable, reliable, cost-competitive power to existing and new members in our cooperative family. That concludes my remarks. If I have a minute or two, there were a couple of things that were brought up last week during Mr. Shaw's comments that I'd just like to quickly address. There was a question about if there's a circumstance where there are rotating outages, rolling blackouts, would that impact the data center? And the answer is the data center will be treated like any other cooperative member. They will be exposed to that same risk, and I believe that is probably why a lot of data center customers are interested in having on-site backup generation. Because of situations like that, like rolling blackout or a tornado, ice storm can affect service, as we all know. Also, there was a question about whether coal would remain the primary fuel for Spurlock Station as we co-fire that power plant, and the answer is yes. So what EKPC plans to do as we add natural gas capabilities, all 4 of those units will be able to operate on natural gas up to 50% of its capacity. But we will retain the ability to run each of those units on up to 100% coal. So coal will continue to be the primary fuel. That's a tool to be able to manage CO2 emissions. If we don't do that, the other options under the greenhouse gas rule, the EPA rule, is to either shut down that power plant by, I believe, 2032, or spend about $11 billion on experimental technology for a plant like Spurlock Station. That would be very expensive for everybody in this room if you're a co-op member. So I believe we've chosen pretty affordable right now. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity.
Matt Baker?
Thank you, Commissioners. I'd like to speak a little bit about water and wastewater. We all know that Maysville is an old community, and consequently, there are components of the water and wastewater systems that are over 100 years old. Despite significant efforts by the city of Maysville, there are many areas of the water and wastewater system that the aging infrastructure makes it difficult to maintain reliable water and wastewater service, and has resulted in non-compliance at several occasions. The potential project, as part of their investment in Maysville and Mason County, is paying for both water and wastewater modeling. The potential project has hired an industry-leading modeling firm to develop and calibrate water and wastewater models for the city of Maysville. These will be indispensable tools that can be used to identify deficiencies and possible issues within the existing system, as well as being useful tools to facilitate planning and the design of future projects and infrastructure improvements. This will be a benefit to all of Maysville's water and wastewater customers. The potential project is currently planning to utilize a dry, closed-loop cooling system at the proposed facility. This type of cooling requires no water during the operation of the facility to cool equipment. The majority of the water demands of the facility will be temporary in nature and will be during the construction phase of the project. After construction, the water demands of the facility will be very similar to any other industry with the same number of employees. Once operational, water demands will be limited to what is needed for employee health and safety at the facility. Things like bathrooms, kitchens, sinks, toilets, drinking fountains, all of those types of things to support the employees. Current projected water demands are as follows. 500,000 gallons per day peak demand during the construction phase. 300,000 gallons of fire flow, which is only needed if there is a fire. 200,000 gallons per day peak demand during the operation of the facility, with less than 100,000 gallons per day being the average at the facility during operation. All of these water demands will be supplied by water from existing water utilities, not from water wells at the facility or on the facility property. In the event that cooling water is needed in the future, the project has committed to draw water directly from the Ohio River so as not to adversely impact any of the local water utilities. A closed-loop dry cooling system does not produce a cooling water waste stream during operation. Therefore, the wastewater from the facility will be limited to domestic wastewater from the kitchens, the sinks, the toilets, the bathrooms, as discussed before. That's similar to any other occupied building. The wastewater will then be conveyed to Maysville's wastewater system and will be treated at the Maysville Wastewater Treatment Plant, just like any other wastewater in the community. The potential project is funding all of the required infrastructure improvements to allow Maysville to deliver the needed water to the site for construction and operation, as well as the wastewater infrastructure needs to convey the wastewater to the wastewater plant. In addition to the required infrastructure improvements that are needed to operate the facility, the proposed project is also making significant investments in the form of infrastructure improvements to improve the reliability and resiliency of Maysville's water and wastewater systems. The large-scale improved reliability will be a benefit to all of Maysville's water and wastewater customers, including their existing industrial and residential customers. The estimated investments for the necessary improvements to support the potential project are over $11.6 million in water improvements, over $12.8 million in wastewater improvements. The additional investments into Maysville's existing system are estimated at $14.6 million in water improvements and $2.1 million in wastewater improvements. That's a total investment of approximately $40 million into the water and wastewater systems. The potential project will be a net benefit for the region from a water and wastewater utility perspective. The water demands of the facility are in line with many other industries for construction and operational use. Maysville has adequate capacity to meet these needs at their treatment plants, and all of the necessary infrastructure improvements will be funded by the potential project and will not be paid for by utility ratepayers. In addition, the potential project is investing almost $17 million into additional projects beyond what is necessary for their facility. Additional projects that would have required financing and would have been paid for by utility rate payers. The potential project's investments reduces that burden on all utility customers. The modeling and the additional system improvements will improve Maysville's water and wastewater systems for all of their customers, industrial, wholesale, and residential. Thank you.
Steve Del Blanco.
Sworn in, and Donna, you may come.
Okay, thank you.
Members of the Commission and Mason County residents, my name is Steve Del Bianco. I'm President and CEO of NetChoice, trade association representing America's tech companies. I'm here to give a national perspective on the data center industry and expansion. But before that, a little bit of a personal perspective. I grew up in western Pennsylvania. I worked in a steel mill on the same river that flows right by Maysville. Today, nearly all those mills are silent. Gone also are the paying jobs, the high-paying jobs, and all the businesses who serve the mills. But earlier this summer, President Trump and Governor Shapiro of Pennsylvania announced $100 billion of new data center and energy investment in western Pennsylvania, specifically in Homer City, which had been the site of America's largest coal power plant, and which was closed down 2 years ago. It will now become a gas-fired power plant. It'll generate 4 gigawatts of power to drive the local economy. Now, Google, one of my members, is the lead investor for that project in Pennsylvania, and they went public about that earlier this summer. But they did so after the zoning and the permits were locked down. Now, I've heard folks say that you want more transparency about your project data center here, but I can tell you that the company involved is an American tech leader whose services most of you in this room use every single day. And their recent data center investments are in the back of the handout that I provided to the commissioners. Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft spent $100 billion last year on investment in data centers. That is far more than energy, telecom, pharma, or manufacturing spent in America last year. America's tech industry is #1 when it comes to investing in America's future and America's communities. And looking ahead, we have $2 trillion of commitments for new data center and AI investments, and that includes companies, 6 companies, Amazon, Apple, Google, Meta, Microsoft, and OpenAI. So please understand, this project is not an inexperienced speculator like the outfit who tried to shoehorn a data center into Oldham County earlier this year. But you can probably see why an industry leader would not want to be identified at this stage before the ordinance is approved and before we've started the long slog of permits. The reason is, if this project is blocked or withdrawn for any reason, that is a huge disappointment to Mason County taxpayers and those looking for the high-paying jobs. It's also a disappointment for a public company because they don't want to risk that much concern to so many local residents, to customers, and to shareholders, since most of us hold these companies in our retirement accounts. So it begs the question of why do we need so many data centers? Why do we need to build them? Well, look at your own phones and I think you'll understand why. Nearly every app on your phone uses the internet to retrieve, process, and store the data that you use every day. Think about all your pictures and videos of family and friends, vacations, trips, and none of us, myself included, ever delete our old photos and videos. So the storage requirements just grow and grow and grow. Now, think about all the times that you've posted and shared your images and videos via messages and social media. That makes additional copies and requires additional storage. How about all of the streaming you do for video and for music and audio? And you check the weather and the news, do your banking, make your Venmo payments, do your email messages, reminders, and calendars. Look, in addition, every business organization, every college and government put their operations online. And we like to say all of that is in the cloud. But I flew down here today and I saw none of your photos floating in the clouds. You know where they are. They're all in a data center. A large building about the size of an aircraft carrier, 2 stories high. It is a data center as we know them in America today. And we are building data centers not for us. We're building them for you. It's your demand for data processing, storage in the cloud that drives it. It's so bad, so good, I should say, that we need to add a new data center about once a week right now. And that was before artificial intelligence revolution has hit. So that's why we build data centers. Let me answer the question about where do we build them. Well, we can serve anyone in this country from a data center that's located anywhere in the country because our internet connections are so strong. So where do we choose? We choose states and communities that have electrical power and where the local community welcomes and values some benefits. Billions in construction spending, which lasts several years. Do the local benefits want upgrades to your energy grid that we, the industry, pay for? Do your community members, do your high schools and MCTC, do they want six-figure data center tech jobs for high school grads and trade school grads? And for property tax payments that your board can allocate to lower your rates and at the same time invest in infrastructure, schools, and services. I give you an example. I live in Northern Virginia. In Virginia's Loudoun County, data center sales tax, data center property tax revenue has enabled the county to reduce the real property tax rate for homeowners every year for a decade. All right, well, turning to what's the experience with electricity bills, since that concern comes up lately. Well, regular customers who live in states and communities where data centers have been for the last 5 years. I'd like to talk about Northern Virginia again, where I live. That is the home to more data centers than anywhere else on the planet. Beijing is a distant second to Northern Virginia. And according to the Department of Energy's Berkeley Labs, it just concluded a study, and for the commissioners, I provided a copy of a summary of that. Virginia's power demand grew 15% over those 5 years, okay? When many data centers were coming online. But that growth in the grid, quote, helped keep many other costs flat on a nominal basis and declining after adjusting for inflation because fixed costs were spread over more load and absorbed by the large data center customers. Department of Energy found the same thing with other states that have a lot of data centers. Data centers absorb fixed costs. They reduce the allocation of those costs to the other electricity ratepayers. That is why rates on a nominal basis are flat to declining. Now, when the Washington Post reported on this, they ran the headline, quote, "There's a reason electricity prices have been rising, and it's not data centers." I've got a link to that article in your handout. So the track record here is quite good for the electricity bills in places where we build data centers, but you don't have to just bet on a track record. EKPC, as they just explained, is subject to a data center tariff approved by the Public Service Commission that ensures you don't bear the costs of what my industry brings to the area. Okay, on water, I'll just add a national perspective. Most new data centers that we build today in this country use no water for cooling. They use electrical air conditioning, like this building uses, or your car in your home. Now, for data center kitchens and bathrooms, yes, they use some water for the couple of hundred people that work there, but that is less water than a courthouse or a school would use. Now, many data center projects also pay, nonetheless, for water infrastructure, such as upgrading the Maysville system discussed earlier. And where water is abundant, a data center can reduce its electricity use if they use, say, run-of-river cooling, which is the case with your coal station here, and with the power plant, and with all the power plants from here back to where I'm from in Pittsburgh. So, about the Trump handout that I had on your table, Mr. Commissioner. President Trump is doing all that he can to help America beat China on the AI race. It's like the Manhattan Project of our generation. And one of my handouts lists the executive orders from President Trump that clear federal roadblocks to energy grid investments and data centers. It does nothing to touch local zoning rules. Local zoning rules are and shall remain local. And last month, President Trump announced the Genesis mission. This is to help American AI solve our most challenging problems in energy, medicine, and national security, from nuclear fusion to curing cancer. So Mason County can be an important part of the President's effort to keep America first. So I will close by reminding you that I started by saying I had roots in Western Pennsylvania and how data centers are reviving the energy grid and the economy there. Now Maysville and Mason County have the chance to embrace data centers. This project helps to extend the life of Spurlock, and it has my industry pay for upgrades to your aging power grid and expand power production. Number 2, our investment will invigorate your local economy during multiple years of construction as we build multiple data centers. Number 3, 400 high school and MCTC grads will earn 6-figure salaries to run the data center. They don't have to commute and move to another city in Kentucky or Cincinnati. They stay home, earn a great living, and support a family here. And finally, data centers will pay enough property tax in Mason County to allow you to have relief on the property taxes you pay on your homes and businesses. They should go down. And the county can still pay for improvements to infrastructure, schools, and public services. So I hope you will welcome the benefits to Mason County and Maysville of data center development, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I live in Mason County, my friend. Good evening, good evening. I'm your Mason County Judge Executive, Owen McNeil. I think it's important we say thank you to the volunteer and unpaid citizens that serve on our JPC. Most of the time, it is not such an involved position, but we greatly appreciate you and appreciate the service you're doing for your community. JPC commissioners, the commissioners and I, with fiscal court, asked you to consider text amendment for data centers and technology campuses for a few reasons. Yes, one reason is because of our current interest from the apex of the industry, a global top 10 US-based company that we've worked hard to bring here. We'll talk about that specifically here in a minute. The other dominant reason, or one of them, is the fact that we currently have the Commonwealth's preeminent power plant located here in Mason County and EKPC's Spurlock Power Generation Station, as well as the fact as we have our majestic Ohio River right next door. For the last 18 months, technology spending and data centers have been about the only industry expanding, and without their spending, our national economic activity reflects more recessionary tendencies. In other words, for the last 6 quarters, they've been about the only big projects going, and given our assets, it's only a matter of time until a serious one looks at our area. As I stated in my letter to the community several months ago, this is our community's opportunity to dictate how we want these governed here. I believe we're 3 to 5 years away from data centers being as common as water treatment plants, and that we'll have one of these critical infrastructure pieces in about every 5 counties. Agnostic of any current interest we have, what do we as the citizens of Mason County want? My opinion is that we leverage them much more than they leverage us. If you'll indulge me, I'd like to tell you 2 stories. First, I don't know, maybe 8 months ago, I asked my good friend and resident historian, Ron Bailey, to see what he could dig up regarding community sentiment back when the DuPont Chemical Company purchased some 1,800 acres near Dover in 1947. Ron sent me some articles from the local newspaper about the stir when a high-end passenger train rolled out of Cincinnati on a regional tour of potential sites. For one of the stops, the train, filled with the full board of the DuPont Chemical Company, stopped in a field just east of Dover and disembarked. There to greet them was the mayor of Maysville and a line of local civic leaders who all did what back then must have been the first economic development site visit. About 2 months later, DuPont closed on the acreage adjacent to the Ohio River to immense local fanfare. About 4 years later, in 1951 or so, executives
with RECC, East Kentucky Power Co-op, and EKPC announced the purchase of much of that acreage from DuPont, announcing plans for what ultimately will become the Spurlock Power Plant. While it took 20 years for construction to start, one would be hard-pressed to argue that Spurlock and our cooperative partners with EKPC have not been huge partners in our community's growth, foundational partners who provided the high-paying, family-sustaining jobs that have kept Maysville, Mason County, and northeastern Kentucky vibrant and on the map. It wasn't without some struggle. After plans were made public for what was initially a 3-plant coal-fired deal, a group of community members led by Dr. Mitchell Denham objected. They fought the development, but ultimately their lawsuits gave way to what I believe we can all agree has been a fantastic community partner. Today, Spurlock and our EKPC corporate partners, in their not-for-profit form of a cooperative, have grown to become fantastic community partners. Since my childhood here in Maysville, anyone working at EKPC had a stable, high-paying job that empowered their lives, their families, and so much more. Yet the cooperative has seen its ups and downs. However, on a whole, they've been a major portion of northeastern Kentucky. I bring this up as anything new or different certainly can be alarming for a conservative community like Maysville and Mason County. But it does not have to be bad. Taking advantage of and capitalizing on opportunities have made Mason County who we are. The other story is one of Prineville, Oregon. Located in northwestern Oregon, out near the better-known Bend, Oregon, Prineville is located in Cook County, and for most of the 1900s was more an agrarian community, with the biggest thing going being the timber industry. In 2007, Prineville's population was approximately 9,500 folks, all of which had some tie to one of 6 or 7 huge industrial timber mills. In 2007, I believe the median family income of someone in Prineville was $19,000 and some change. In 2008, the recession hit, and Prineville's 7 huge industrial sawmills quickly dwindled to one wobbly one, and the future was looking rather bleak. Leadership in Prineville knew they needed something, and in walked the Meta guys who, after a year of vetting, announced they'd build a data center there, followed quickly by the Steve Jobs-led Apple. Following their announcements, business kicked off in Prineville area. Yes, they had construction headaches, which no one likes, and yes, it got a bit tough to find an apartment for a bit, which no one likes. However, the 2,500 construction jobs that opened up caused an economic boom in their community, not dissimilar to what our community saw back when Spurlock did their 5-year clean coal scrubber project 10 years ago, and everyone here was employed and making money. It gets better though. After adding on to their centers over the next decade, Prineville has exploded, not with a bunch of random Yahoo strangers causing problems for the community, but with high-paying, quality employment for their citizens, opportunities for their graduates, and funding that supports everything around, from schools to local governments to animal shelters. In 2020, the city of Prineville did an economic impact assessment of their community. At that point, their population had grown to only 12,000 people. It hadn't exploded with strangers, but it healthily had grown. Their timber industry rebounded, and their economy had diversified to include high-paying, career-sustaining tech jobs that pushed their median family income north of $78,000 or $87,000 a year. A huge leap. That 25% unemployment they stared down in the latter half of 2008, all but non-existent in 2020. Today, Cook County, Oregon is the fastest growing, most vibrant county in Oregon. Their Prineville Economic Opportunity Analysis stated, what are the key conclusions? The conclusions about commercial and industrial land sufficiently are, Prineville's economy
has changed substantially since the last EOA was completed. Since 2008, Brineville added 946 jobs annually, many of which are related to the growth of data centers. The growth in data centers is a driving factor in increasing average wages in Cook County from nearly $34,700 in 2008 to more than $72,000 in 2022. In addition, Brineville expanded or altered its UGB 6 times between 2012 and 2017, primarily for data center development and expansion, all in the southern part of the city, in areas with light industrial zoning. Brineville is forecasted to grow in both commercial and industrial employment sectors. Brineville is planning for growth of 2,697 new jobs in the city over the 2025 to 2035 period. About 1,361 of the jobs will be in commercial and retail services. I believe Brineville, Oregon's last decade is a pretty good indicator of our next decade. Overall, here are my thoughts. Innovative project design. Most employers stumble into our community. Our project team, consisting of Tyler and our economic development team, EKPC and RECC's team, and others, have consistently and consciously maximized every opportunity. We've not only claimed benefits for our community, but ensured it. Over the last year, I've traveled to several of these hyperscale data centers. While all have fences and standard commercial security, I don't hear anything in Lancaster, Ohio. All I see is progress in New Albany, Ohio. No one likes construction, evidenced in the outcry from our widening project of the AA highway in US 68, but it does indicate progress and momentum. Your role on this board is to come up with setbacks, height restrictions, sound designations, etc., zoning questions. Today, earlier, you heard from Secretary Jeff Knoll with the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development, basically highlighting everything we've said to date is true. The project represents a post-World War II Brownings for this next generation. Imagine a Mason County where a high school senior can graduate the best funded public high school in Kentucky and take a job earning $65,000 a year. Imagine that same student going to MCTC for a 6-month certification and earning $80,000 a year. Finally, imagine that same student going to MCTC for a 2-year associate's degree and earning $107,000 per year. And imagine all those opportunities for our youth without one of them having to leave Mason County. Imagine an opportunity that brings high-paying technology jobs, 150 to 200 badged-in jobs per section, and thousands of construction jobs right here. We don't have to imagine what the additional power plant jobs this project brings, as they've already been high-quality jobs in our community since the 50s. With this project, I expect additional jobs from power generation alone. People worry they won't be local jobs. In reality, I worry they will hire too many local people, putting a strain on our existing manufacturers. All of these jobs, literally, are on the highest end of the spectrum, because remember, we're talking about the preeminent leader in this industry. Literally the apex of the industry. This group is consistently named as the preferred employer in the industry. Even if there were only 2 jobs, our community cannot discount the amount of investment that comes. I have guarantees that this project will not represent a financial, amenity, or infrastructure burden on our local community. Well, what's that mean? It means that with most projects, we're paying to run water, wastewater lines to the project. We're financing electric build-outs to a project. When you build your own house, you're financing a portion of the electric generation coming to your house. With this project, we've discussed, easily tens of millions of dollars in water and wastewater infrastructure that will be designed, built, and donated to Maysville Utilities. We're trying to do the same for Western Mesa. All of you are tired of the aging system we currently have with line breaks, delays, and low pressures. You're tired of design. Not only does this project bring jobs, but it essentially rebuilds the western half of Maysville Utilities. For Western Mesa, they'll realize a guarantee for any lost revenue that may be represented in lost farm meters. Not only that, they will gain these guys as a customer for any available potable water they have available. It guarantees in writing no lost revenues, given they're a brand new system predicated on bond financing. That's important, and rolls out additional opportunities to serve new clients in terms of housing, projects, and other economic opportunities. Collectively, it easily puts Mason County, Northeastern Kentucky at the top of the list for a new $50 million regional water treatment facility that we're hoping the state helps us with. Now let's look at electric. Yes, they'll utilize an immense amount of electricity. However, EKPC's Public Service Commission approved rule mandates that the prospect must prepay for all electric generation, transmission, distribution, equipment, and electricity. Remember, EKPC is not for-profit cooperative with essentially a math equation that determines cost. If, on one side of your ledger, you force industrial data centers and technology campuses to prepay for all their equipment, electric, doesn't it make sense that at a minimum it stabilizes residential rates? It's a math equation. People talk about the PJM national grid. EKPC makes all of the power with Spurlock and Cooper Station. The only time they sell electric into PJM is when they have extra and can make a little, providing unused electrons to systems without generation. It only helps stabilize bills for us. Yes, inflation catches every asset. However, any increased costs on EKPC's grid won't come from this project. To everyone, I'm your Mason County Judge Executive. My job is to ensure we have a growing, vibrant community in all facets. My job is to literally worry about everything, which I do. We have an immensely overweighted manufacturing economy with manufacturers that have been here a while. We've pulled off some innovative tricks like transforming Mitsubishi into a heat pump manufacturer, but I do worry that losing just one of our larger manufacturers puts us in a rather precarious position. We have an aging, unattended infrastructure that's showing its wear and tear daily. While we have reascended back to the economic hub of northeastern Kentucky, our traditional place, we will continue to lose our youth to more urban areas, winning some battles but losing the war between that rural-urban divide. While we consider ourselves an agrarian economy, ask any farmer. Without owning 800 to 1,000 acres, farming is financially difficult. Since my childhood here, most successful farmers have full-time professional jobs, like working at Brownings or Stover. Most with less than 800 acres have a career that supplements their farming or agrarian lifestyle. Finally, while zoning certainly has its place, most of us Mason Countyans are more libertarian than anything else, and most will tell you to let someone do what they want on their own land. It's an opportunity. We've approached those in an area that's not exactly the bread belt of Mason County. Their site is surrounded by the state's preeminent power plant, a private coal ash landfill, and our AA highway, and one of Mason County's industrial parks. In closing, let me say this. I believe it's self-evident that this industry is coming. especially given we have Spurlock and the river. I'm asking you to empower our community with regulations that ensure we only accept the best of the best, and that anyone who comes, we leverage them much more than they leverage us. With that, EKPC's tariff, mandating they prepay for all electric and equipment, as well as the caveat that they must prepay for all water, wastewater infrastructure, limits our community to only the top players. I applaud the prescribed limits on setbacks, sound, and others. I'll also go further in saying Mason counties shouldn't be afraid to win. And I assure you, this project will be a huge win. In addition to the thousands of jobs that will reinvigorate and turbocharge our region, we'll see revenues that empower our community. With one project's first region, we will see a doubling of our local revenues. Currently, my budget at the county is about $25 million, of which, say $9 million, comes from local property, tangible, occupational, and insurance premiums. One region of this entity doubles that amount, while also bringing in some $9 million to our schools. Doesn't that amount paid into our community lighten the load for everyone else? With assistance from the state and federal government shrinking year after year, that extra revenue is more than just additional paving, amenities like dump trucks, and additional shelter space. It's our community taking control of our destiny, plain and simple. This project represents us diversifying our economy, growing our opportunities, and moving forward. Technology and AI isn't an evil word, and by using innovative project design, we're leveraging our new partners much more than they're leveraging us. We're also bolstering and supporting our traditional partners at EKPC, a historical partner that's been supporting our community since the 50s and that original train stop down east of Dover. All of our employees and our local leadership see the value in this project, and I appreciate your interest and time this evening.
Good evening, members of the Joint Planning Commission. My name is Tyler McHugh, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Maysville-Mason County Industrial Development Authority. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight in support of the proposed data center project and to offer some perspective about what this means, not just for land and infrastructure, but for the future of Mason County itself. Over the past several decades, Mason County has faced a slow but steady decline in both population and employment. In 1980, we were home to nearly 19,000 residents. Today, we sit at approximately 16,900. That's a decline of more than 10% in 2 generations, and it continues. That decline isn't just a number on paper. It's fewer children in our schools, fewer workers in our businesses, and fewer families contributing to the tax base that supports our police, fire, and public services. As of August 2025, Mason County's labor force totals about 7,000 people, with roughly 6,600 currently unemployed. Deeper concerns that our working age population, those between 20 and 64 years old, continues to shrink. The Kentucky Center for Statistics projects that if no major new industries arrive, Mason County's available workforce will decline further over the next decade. That means fewer qualified workers, fewer local employers, and continued economic erosion. In 1990, Mason County supported more than 4,000 manufacturing jobs. Today, that number has dropped below 1,500, a loss of over 60% of our industrial employment base. Those were the kinds of jobs that built homes, supported families, and funded our schools. They created the middle class that kept Maysville's downtown thriving and created opportunities for small businesses to succeed. And while some of those jobs have been replaced by smaller firms, logistics and service work, the wage gap has widened. The kinds of family-sustaining careers that once anchored this community are now harder to find closer to home. Today, nearly 18% of Mason County residents commute outside the county every day for work. The average one-way commute time is around 26.5 minutes, according to the U.S. Census of American Community Survey. That means nearly 1 in 5 of our working adults gets in their car each morning, drives to another county to earn their paycheck, and returns home late, spending their most productive hours elsewhere. They buy lunch in another county. They fill up their gas tanks there. Many of them shop and spend their paychecks there. And that's money and vitality leaving Mason County every single day. And just as importantly, it's time leaving Mason County too. When residents spend 2 hours a day commuting, that's 2 hours they're not spending with their families, not coaching youth teams, not serving on civic boards, and not volunteering in the organizations that hold this community together. From fire departments to school programs to church ministries, neighborhood cleanups, and charitable drives. These are the same groups that show up when communities need help, when a family loses a home, when a local student needs a mentor, or when a neighbor falls ill. Mason County has always had a deep tradition of people helping people. But that requires time, energy, and connection, the very thing long commutes take away. I know this firsthand. For 7 years, I commuted more than an hour each way while working for one of the top-rated companies in the world, Procter & Gamble. I'm incredibly grateful for that experience, but it also taught me the personal cost of distance. That commute meant missing milestones, family dinners, and community events. It meant feeling disconnected from the very place I call home. I was contributing to a company that did great things globally, but I wanted to feel that same sense of impact locally, to help build something here, where my time and effort could strengthen my own community. That's what this project offers. The chance to stay close to home and still build a meaningful career. The chance for young professionals to earn competitive wages without having to leave Mason County every morning. It also gives countless people who still call Mason County home, even if they've had to move away for work, the opportunity to return, raise their families, and contribute to the community they love without having to sacrifice their careers to do it. The proposed data center projects gives us a chance to reverse that pattern. It gives the opportunity to work where they live, to reclaim those hours lost on the road, and reinvest them right here in their hometown. It means local paychecks spent in local stores. It means parents able to attend their children's games instead of rushing home from Lexington, Georgetown, Cincinnati, and other communities. It means workers who have the time and stability to volunteer, serve, and strengthen the very institutions that make Mason County feel like home. This project isn't just about jobs, it's about keeping our people here, fully engaged, fully invested, and fully present in the life of their community. This opportunity represents one of the largest private investments in Mason County's modern history. Billions of dollars in capital investments spent right here in Mason County. It's not a temporary construction project. It's a multi-building, long-term campus designed to operate for decades with continuous reinvestment in infrastructure, power, and workforce. These jobs, these data centers create a high-paying, highly skilled, and stable. These positions support engineers, electricians, operations specialists, and technology technicians, the kind of careers that attract and retain working families. The impact also extends well beyond the fence line. National studies, including Google and Meta's 2024 impact reports, show that for every one job created by a data center, 5 additional local jobs follow. Those include local contractors, maintenance providers, suppliers, restaurant workers, and hospitality staff. That's how this project builds momentum across the entire community. Not through one big employer, but through sustained, layered impact. Projects of this scale also strengthen the systems that serve everyone, from water to sewer, fire, police, and roads. Mason County, like many rural communities, faces rising costs to maintain and modernize its infrastructure. The Kentucky Infrastructure Authority has reported that small systems like ours face some of the highest per user costs in the state. When the population shrink, those fixed costs are spread across fewer taxpayers, or ratepayers. The data center's investment helps change that equation. It brings in new revenue to support infrastructure upgrades and water treatment improvements. It broadens our tax base, helping sustain public safety for funding with our fire and police, and it makes it easier to plan for capital improvements without overburdening homeowners and small businesses. These are tangible community benefits, ones that will last long after the construction equipment is gone. We are also proud to have Eastern Kentucky Power as our regional partner. This project aligns directly with EKPC's Public Service Commission approved data center tariff, which was specifically designed to attract high-load, long-term industrial customers like this one, while ensuring that local residents and small business ratepayers are fully protected. That tariff structure has been recognized within the utility industry as a best-in-class model, bringing balanced economic development incentives with fiscal responsibility. It allows large-scale users to receive competitive rates based on predictable, high-volume demand without shifting any cost burden onto existing customers. In other words, this project strengthens the overall grid and improves load diversity without raising rates for local homes, farms, or small businesses. EKPC's proactive planning, combined with the cooperative's history of reliability, ensures that this project will enhance, not strain, the regional power system. It's a model of how growth can be achieved responsibly and in a way that benefits everyone connected to the grid. Now, I want to acknowledge the questions that have been raised about environmental impact, land use, and community character. Those questions are valid and expected. Every large-scale project requires careful review, and this one is no exception. The IDA, along with the project's engineering team, has worked with environmental consultants and state agencies to conduct detailed studies on soil, water, and habitat. Nothing of significance was discovered, but if it were, the company has made it clear that it would be handled respectfully and in full compliance with preservation laws. We have a choice before us. We can continue to shrink, losing population, losing jobs, and watching our young people leave for opportunities elsewhere. Or we can chart a new course. The data center project gives us the opportunity to redefine our local economy. It gives us the chance to bring home the commuters who leave every morning, to create new tax revenues that supports our schools and services, and to build confidence that Mason County is open to responsible growth. If we do nothing, our population is projected to fall below 16,000 by 2040. The tax base will continue to narrow, and funding the essentials, roads, water systems, police, and fire will get harder every year. But if we embrace growth, responsibly and deliberately, we can change that trajectory. We can create stability for our residents, our government, and our future generations. This isn't about changing who we are. It's about ensuring we're still here thriving, not just surviving for generations to come. On behalf of the Mason County Industrial Development Authority, I respectfully ask for your support for this project. This is not simply about buildings or industry, it's about people. It's about giving our citizens the opportunity to work where they live. It's about strengthening our utilities, our schools, and our emergency services. It's about keeping Mason County competitive, relevant, and resilient in the decades ahead. We know that growth at this scale won't come without challenges. There will be growing pains in infrastructure and housing, traffic, and even in the way we adapt to change as a community. But those are the kind of challenges that come from progress. The kind of challenges communities want to have in order to build long-term prosperity. We will work through them together with communication and the same cooperative spirit that has always defined Mason County. As a 2008 graduate of Mason County High School, I dreamed of Maysville having an opportunity like this for long-term career jobs and opportunities. This project says one thing very clearly. Mason County's best days are not behind us. They're in front of us. if we choose to build it. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chairman, I request a 15-minute break, reconvene at 7:20.
It'll be fine, we'll take a 15-minute break.